In 2033, your Social Security could get cut permanently. Not by a little, 21% of it gone. That's over $18,000 per household, money you were counting on for rent, healthcare, and survival. And the worst part, even delaying retirement won't save you. I'm Josh, and on today's episode of the Infographic Show, we're explaining what happens if Social Security runs out and you can't retire. How can a country that pulls in over $1 trillion a year in taxes have a law that sends millions into poverty overnight? To see why, we need to understand how the math behind retirement broke. The inverted pyramid. It should have been the perfect system. A pay-as-you-go conveyor belt where younger workers pour taxes into the system on one end, and the retirees who've done their time in the labor mines collected on the other. When you age out of work, you move toward the pickup end of the conveyor belt, and the new generation of workers starts to pay in to take your place. If you want to get a bit more specific, the money comes partly from investment income and taxes that retirees pay on their benefits, but most of it comes from a dedicated 12.4% payroll tax that is evenly split by employees and employers. It seems like as long as time kept marching forward, there wouldn't be any problems. The 69 million Americans in the system would continue getting their full checks every month, including the 22 million that would fall below the poverty line without their full check. And then the system started to crumble. Part of the reason is the factor making all of our lives a little bit harder every day: inflation and stagnant wages. There's also another popular boogeyman that they're tied to: declining birth rates. The U.S. has seen a downward birth trend since the 2000s, hitting its lowest ever birth rate in 2024. Thankfully, we are not facing total population collapse. The birth rate is still above the death rate, but at 1.6 births per woman, the situation looks pretty dire. For some perspective, at the end of the baby boom era in the early 1960s, the U.S. birth rate was roughly 3.3. A 2013 Gallup poll found the main reasons are worries that people couldn't afford kids, while more recent polls show growing fears of climate change. But whatever the reason, the result is the same. That conveyor belt has turned into a seesaw, and it is dipping dangerously to one end. But the birth rates are actually only a small part of the overall cause. Back in 1983, amendments to the Social Security Act were passed. The aim was to keep the Social Security Trust Fund, the Old Age and Survivors Insurance, or OASI, solvent until around 2058. But there were plenty of problems they didn't anticipate. The protracted impact of the Great Recession in 2008 hammered jobs, crippled the housing market, and fueled a surge in wealth inequality. It was one of the first signs that 2058 might be overly optimistic. Things start getting bad in 2021 when the Great Shortfall began. For the first time since the early 1980s, the payouts of Social Security were bigger than the contributions. It wasn't by some small margin either. It was $56 billion. Just like an unexpected expense a couple of weeks before your payday forces you to dip into your savings, Social Security has its own savings account, the reserve or trust fund. And much like your savings, once this fund is empty, it is empty for good. The problem is, it is running out quicker than anyone expected. Surely the solution here is for the millennials to get busy and start having more kids, right? No, it's not. According to experts like Nancy Altman, president of Social Security Works, the population disparity isn't nearly as big of a problem for Social Security as wealth inequality. After all, when paying the 6.2% payroll tax, the lower the average wage for American workers, the smaller their collective contribution to Social Security. And if you're thinking, surely the gap is covered when millionaires and billionaires pay their payroll tax? Well, if you thought that, clearly you thought further ahead than the U.S. government, who put a cap on the taxable wealth for Social Security. In 2025, it was $176,100. The future might be looking bleak, but at least you can like, share, and subscribe. It might be the only thing getting you through your non-retirement. But what does all this actually mean? Everyone earning less than $176,100 is still paying 6.2%, which shrinks in value as inflation rises. Meanwhile, millionaires and billionaires keep consolidating their wealth but never pay more than 6.2% on that $176,100 cap. In the good old days, Social Security captured and taxed 90% of the average wages. Thanks to growing wealth inequality, they now only capture 83%. As the analysts at Transamerica put it, the top 6% of workers rose 62% more than the price inflation, while wages for the other 94% grew by just 17%. That is horrible news for Social Security. Since 1983, this slippage has drained Social Security by $1.4 trillion, which economically speaking is a staggering amount of money. Which brings us back to the percentage cut. Like we said earlier, it is nonsense to think that checks will immediately go to zero. That's just fear-mongering, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be afraid. No matter what, Social Security needs to make those payouts to everyone that they owe them to, no picking or choosing. But once the trust fund is gone, there are no easy direct bailouts or alternative funding sources other than the depleted contributions. That means that when the fund runs dry in 2033, the remaining money will need to be stretched, resulting in an average pay cut of 19 to 23% depending on who you ask. Imagine your job just told you you'd have to take a pay cut, losing a fifth of your income, while all of your living costs stay the same. This is the barrel of the gun that America's retirees are currently staring down. The government is currently pulling back the hammer. In previous generations, proportionally, we saw as many as 5 workers making contributions to support every one retiree. Now it's only 3, and in the future it's likely to shrink to 2. Think of it like a train carrying heavy cargo. The train and its engines are the workers, and the cargo its retirees. 5 engines carrying a heavy load is light work. 2 engines and a heavier load than ever, and it makes you wonder how long this train could even run. Holding off retirement until you're even older might seem like a solution to this. You build more savings, ration your payments for the remaining years, and reduce the number of retirees. Wins all around, right? But there is a problem. You're just another brick in the biological wall. You've heard the classic advice that every so-called financial guru says, just delay your retirement until you're 70. The earliest you could start claiming Social Security benefits is 62, but your benefit would be about 30% less than if you waited for full retirement age at 67. If you wait even longer until 70, your benefit will be exactly 24% higher than if you retired at 67. It is a persuasive idea, so much so that CNBC has reported that around 70% of Americans have considered delaying retirement. But while that idea is sound, it doesn't mean that your body will be. According to a 2025 survey, health troubles are the main reason almost 56% of middle-aged workers in the United States retire earlier than planned. Those health troubles only compound the older you get. Just because you plan to retire later for economic reasons, it doesn't mean your body will hold up, or that you won't face the kind of corporate ageism that makes employers hesitant to hire someone in their late 60s. This is a particularly tough spot for people who work physically demanding jobs, who typically earn less and therefore would gain more from delaying retirement, but they're less likely to be able to due to the demands of the job and the toll that working it would take on their bodies. In the brutal words of Teresa Ghilarducci, a professor of economics and policy analysis at the New School for Social Research, the labor market doesn't always want you when you want the labor market. And of course, there is that other, much more depressing reason that late retirement is a wolf in sheep's clothing: the ultimate biological wall, death. Even though life expectancy for Americans is as high as it's ever been, that still doesn't leave you with a great-looking number when the Reaper comes knocking. If you manage to survive to age 70, the data shows the average man will live almost 14 more years. A woman will live another 16 years. That means even if you delay retirement until 70, you still have to stretch those savings across a decade and a half of rising medical costs before they become inheritance. This kicks off what we like to call the decay spiral, the ultimate grim result of being financially unable to retire but physically unable to work. The little money you have is put in direct confrontation with all of the rising costs of getting old, from health to home maintenance. It's like there's a monster slowly eating you from the feet up. You know it's happening, but there's almost nothing you could do. This might all sound like we're entering a nightmare, but no, the truth is we're waking up from a nice cozy nap to the cold hard reality. The end of retirement is not a glitch in the system. That changes how you should be thinking about your money right now. For most of human history, we've been worked like horses until we dropped. The social safety net that guarantees security for the elderly has only existed for the last century. But by 2033, that net is breaking, and what will we be left tumbling toward? With a 21% social security cut draining your income and your body no longer able to fill the gap, where you put your remaining cash becomes everything, because the worst place you can keep it right now is exactly where the banks want you to leave it. Want to understand why this nightmare is happening and how you might be able to survive it? Then you need to watch You're Witnessing the Death of American Capitalism and Don't Even Know It, because your financial future depends on it, or click on this video instead.